Thank you in advance for that. Valerie, if I missed something in the chat, would you let me know about it? Okay,
Sure
great.
thing.
And if it's okay, we're recording with, we will turn the recording off when the Q&A comes. So if there's something you don't want to ask during the recording, you could ask later, but certainly invite you to participate at any time. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And since we already have subtitles, I'll turn those off on here. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna talk about today, and I hope you will talk about it with me. Why mindset is important, what is needed for a strong entrepreneurial mindset, how you create your own reality, and then I'll talk a little bit how I blend all of that into my company, Live Life, and then we'll do the Q&A. So before telling you what I'm doing now, let me tell you how I got to where I am. I received my undergraduate degree from University of Illinois, from the business school in finance, and I had a great experience there. And I also have my MBA from Kellogg at Northwestern University. I completed that in 1996. At night while I was working for LaSalle Bank, which was my first job out of college. Am I sharing the correct screen?
You have your first slide that and you've got LaSalle Bank on there now as a pop-up.
Okay, so it's the full screen. It's not my notes.
Yes, sorry.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, thank you. It showed up a little wonky. Okay, so at LaSalle, 1990, I started, my career there. I worked there for 17 years. I did a lot of very interesting things. I was a commercial lender for middle market and large corporate businesses. I traveled a lot. LaSalle was owned by a Dutch bank called ABN AMRO, and spent some time in Amsterdam. I was the CEO's chief of staff and business manager. And I ran one of our training programs as well as a team with our corporate development group, and really grateful for my career there. Right about the time that LaSalle was acquired, because it was absorbed into Bank of America in 2007, right around that time that acquisition was happening, I had the opportunity to take a severance package, a really nice one. And about 2 months before that, I had started Vava Vroom, which was a women's motorcycle apparel company that I had started because when I started riding motorcycles, there wasn't a lot in the market for women. I recognized a need. It was the fastest growing segment of the industry, and it may very well still be. And so I took my ideas, my severance package, and decided to make a go of it. And I had that company for 8 years and did that full time for 5. While I was building and running my business, I also decided to teach entrepreneurship at Columbia College in Chicago because I really missed the aspect of training and helping people thrive in business. And while I was doing that, I stumbled upon an opportunity at CIBC. It was called Private Bank at the time. CIBC, which is a Canadian bank, acquired the Private Bank. I think it was 2017, and you may see a theme that the banks I've worked for got acquired, and that's quite common in this industry. But a former colleague who was a guest speaker in my class told me about an opportunity at CIBC to start and run their entry-level credit analyst program, which we then grew into a full-scale training department for the entire commercial bank, including the experienced lenders. And along that whole journey, I had started studying ancient traditions. that felt really applicable to my life. And once applied, my life changed in really in magnificent ways. These traditions include the threads that run through all major teachings, such as it is done to you as you believe, treat others as you wish to be treated, just to name a couple. And all of that leads me to where I am today. So I am currently on faculty with the Gies College of Business. I joined in 2019, starting my third academic year. And what I do is I am the program coordinator and a faculty mentor for our Masters of Finance practicum program. Gies has an excellent reputation, deservedly so, in action learning. And this is one of the pieces of that. And our groups of students do real financial and quantitative projects with local, regional, and global companies. And these bright students can help companies solve real problems and questions at no cost to the company. So it's like having a mini intern with you at the company, although we do most everything virtually and definitely virtually during the pandemic. So I mentioned that in case you have a business that you have something that you'd like our students to tackle. We have many programs that might fit your project. And I also have a newer business endeavor, Live Life Spiritual Direction, where I am a business coach, spiritual counselor, and Reiki practitioner. And I founded this in 2018 to assist clients to identify and overcome false beliefs about themselves and the world for a more expanded and joyful experience of life. And from there, the practice grew to incorporate Reiki, energy healing, and business coaching. And I'm going to talk mostly about the business coaching part today, because I realize that these false beliefs that we hold about ourselves and the world don't just exist in our personal life. It extends to every part of our life, if we let it. So my approach in business coaching not only focuses on the physical aspects of building a business, like putting a website together, finding clients, but it also looks at what false beliefs and unhelpful patterns might block my clients from success. So I also talk briefly about service. Service is important to me, and I'm currently volunteering with a great group of energetic people who were working together to bring organic, local, and sustainable food via a grocery co-op in our town. I live in Whitewater, Wisconsin, and we don't have a grocery store in this town, if you can believe it. And the area is pretty rural, so the towns are, a little bit far apart. I'm also have been involved with the Gies College of Business Alumni Association for over 30 years, and currently I serve on the President's Circle. You might know the Gies College of Business Alumni Association by our annual spring luncheon, where when it was in person, and we do hope next year we can have it in person, that we would get 800 to 1,000 attendees in Chicago every year. And it was a great place for alumni to connect. If we can't hold it in person this year, we'll hold it virtually. Okay, so for now we're going to talk about why the mindset of an entrepreneur is important. And please do stop me if you have some questions. So don't get me wrong, having a sound business plan, mission statement, etc., are all important to running a successful business. But today we're going to talk about more qualitative and often overlooked characteristics that really are necessary to have not only a successful business, but even a balanced life. So most of the estimates that I see for small business and venture-backed businesses, the failure rate is around 70 to 75%. So it is crucial for business owners to have the full package of strengths and resources to succeed. And this can all be learned, from approaching business generation from the physical level, the sales plans, the business plans, but also the mental level, like just believing in yourself. So the first thing I want to talk about is, this idea of fear of failure. That's an interesting way to put it. One of the biggest things that contribute to business failure is the fear of that actually happening. So without minimizing the validity of your fears, as an entrepreneur, you need to learn to view business failure as a learning opportunity rather than some big obstacle. So what I learned in my practitioner training is that life happens for you, not to you. So take a moment to think about a past failure. And what did you learn from it? How did it help you later? So I reflect on that a lot as I grow my current business. And I'm reminded of many mini failures I had with Fava Vroom. And I learned from them. I do things differently now. And I learned how to turn a mistake into a win by turning a disgruntled customer into one of my biggest fans by exceeding expectations and making it right. I also remember not approaching certain individuals in my industry because I had this thought that my business wasn't big enough yet. But in reality, I really had a great product. The size of the company at the time was only a problem in my head. So I really encourage you, as if you're going into your own business, to think big for yourself. In fact, I was just, this idea of fear of failure, I was just talking to a friend of mine last night who's an entrepreneur, and his name is Kevin. And we were talking, and, he was talking about how the fear that surfaces when his business has a bad week or a bad month. And then he also acknowledged that because the business has survived for so long, he can sit back in that trust and just allow those peaks and valleys to happen. But it's still something, after him doing this for years and years, is still there. So in addition to fear of failure, some entrepreneurs lack any of these qualities: vision, flexibility, innovation, and passion. And with vision, rather than adapting to your dreams to the economy and what's going on, you really have to set and achieve your own goals independent of circumstances. So one way you can accomplish this is by being innovative. Can anyone name any companies that failed because they didn't adapt to changing times and weren't innovative? So I'll give you one. Blockbuster. Does anyone remember Blockbuster? They were a leader in their industry of at-home movies, and they were not able to adapt to the changing market and are no longer around. So the key to this long-term success is flexibility and a willingness to pivot when that's necessary. I see Sears. Michael mentioned Sears and Exxon, also really good examples. And with, particularly with Sears, over the last several years, we just keep hearing about more and more stores closing, which is disappointing. If anyone is as old as me, you might remember the Sears catalog that used to come at Christmas time and the holiday season. That was always fun. So in addition to this flexibility and innovation, passion is crucial. And usually business owners start out passionate about their product, but if you have a great business idea but no passion, I urge you to rethink the endeavor. Building a business takes commitment, discipline, focus. So how long are you going to stay focused if you're not passionate about it? So, over my career, I've really paid attention to what really lights me up. And that's to help others succeed. And that's why I teach, and that's why I do this coaching. And I really reflect, I really encourage you to reflect on what lights you up as well. And Carrie mentions Kmart as well. Yeah, that Kmart came to mind as well when I was thinking of what companies just didn't quite make it. I remember the Kmart specials, blue light specials, I think they were called. So moving on to the next one, as an entrepreneur, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur or solopreneur, as it's called sometimes, it doesn't mean you have to do everything on your own. So the strength of the leader is key. So if you do have employees, and if you need to control everything, it's likely you won't succeed over the long term. Delegating helps you manage your time, focus your energy on what matters most, and then it helps you spot up and coming, potential leaders for yourself. And I learned this the hard way in my business with Baba Broom. I wanted to be solely independent. I wanted to do it on my own. And my mother will tell you, I have always wanted to do everything on my own ever since I was a child. But I didn't have all the skills or interests needed for a successful business. So I had to find employees, vendors to fill that gap. And another idea for you is to think about, like, who can you bring in as an actual partner with you that complements your skills and have a shared passion for what you want to do. So finally, I want to talk about this idea of the imposter complex. And this idea that, what if they find out I'm not supposed to be here? And really, most, if not all, people experience this from time to time. Your feelings of self-worth and confidence determine how often this creeps up. So Tanya Geisler, she's a leadership coach, and she has a list of 4 lies, the imposter complex lies, and they tell us many things. So first, it tells us that some people are inherently better than other people, and we can't and won't ever stack up. Another lie is that we haven't earned the right to take up this space, and that we should keep quiet, play small, because loving yourself out loud, claiming your brilliance, or owning your own authority is unbecoming. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Marianne Williamson's book, A Return to Love, but here's one of my favorite quotes from her book. And I'm paraphrasing, but it goes something like this. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. So I ask you to internalize that and ask yourself, where am I playing small, and where can I step out in the world more vibrantly, whether it is in a job or a business or a club that you might be part of and leading. Let's look at the last one. So this last lie, the imposter complex lie or false belief, is it's just a matter of time before our luck runs out. No, 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 no. It is your belief in your good and your actions that fuels your so-called luck. You make your own luck. So when you see and name a lie, it really loses power. So I encourage you to take your power back and look in your own life where you may be telling yourselves these lies without even consciously realizing it. So I want to ask everyone, where do you think these lies come from? Why do you think as humans we get these ideas? Any thoughts?
I would say we're very socialized into it. Like a lot of the stuff we hear from other people, maybe it's even like growing up, you may hear like an insult or something, like somebody makes a little comment about something you do, and like you really internalize that. When sometimes like not even knowing it, but like you keep that inner agreement with yourself, and like you start like acting based on that.
Thanks, Marjorie. That's perfect. We remember those things. And like you said, it might be unconscious, but it's still kind of logged in our brain, right? And it's even in common phrases in society, like don't get too big for your britches. That's kind of an old-fashioned term, but don't think you're all that. As Marjorie mentioned, like maybe people even think they're being helpful in pointing out your faults, but or it's only a perceived fault perhaps, but we remember that and we really take it to heart instead of maybe looking at it as just their view or what can I learn from this and how can I improve? Because when we get criticism, sometimes we take it on ourselves, but really it's our value doesn't change because someone doesn't like what we did or how we did it. Media, news, if you watch the news, you would believe, start believing that 90% of everything is bad news. But when you live in the world, it's not 90% bad. Our TVs and movies are full of violence, lack of diversity, degradation of women. So there's a lot of messages we get. But I'm here to tell you that you can overcome it all.
I was going to say actually almost the opposite of media. I feel like people never broadcast their failures. So when you read a story about someone who's had a startup, it's like, oh, she was destined to do this. Everything in her path funneled her straight to this meteoric success. This is her first novel, and she's got a $2 billion deal with Houghton Mifflin. Like somehow I feel like the media amplifies or cherry picks the facts that they present to us. So I get the impression like, wow, I can't imagine my first novel is going to be sold to Houghton Mifflin for $3 billion. So, I better not try, right? Yeah. So I have the opposite concept of media portraying that. I'm logging off my boyfriend. That's why it says Michael.
And what's your name?
I'm Amy, actually. Yeah, Valerie knows me, but sorry.
I didn't think that was right, but
I'm not Michael. Yeah, no, he's my business partner in that way. But yeah.
Thank you, Amy. And what a great success, example, because that also happens in social media, right? Most people post the good things, not the failures. People post the successes. So, we can get that from a lot of different places. Thank you for sharing. Any other, before I move to the next slide, any other comments or thoughts on this topic? Okay, let's talk next about what is needed to be not only a successful entrepreneur, but also to be energized by your life. So we talked about lack of passion as a stumbling block in the last slide, but how to maintain it when building a business can be an ongoing process. So recognize that business success hinges on loyalty to a vision. So without it, you don't have any guiding signposts. So I recommend posting your vision where you can see it, or a vision board. In fact, I'm going to show you. Okay, can you see my screen now? So this is my vision board, and I can't really see. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So this is a vision I put together of the essence of what I want in my business, and I keep it posted where I can see it. it keeps me true to what I'm doing. And you can do this also by posting your actual vision of or mission of your business, but just remembering, like, why am I doing this in the first place, and come back to it again and again. You can also survey your clients over time to see how you've helped them. I find that energizing because that reminds me of why I started doing this in the first place. And the final thought on passion is, burnout is real, especially in the world of entrepreneurs. So, there's always something you could be doing to build your business, to improve it in some way. So you really have to set boundaries. This confidence piece is especially important. So in the last slide, I mentioned the imposter complex. So we don't want to think of ourselves as imposters, right? But what do we do about it? So I have actually quite a few suggestions on this topic, and, feel free to take notes. One is affirmations. So I historically have had an aversion to taking on investors for fear of rejection. And at the suggestion of my own spiritual counselors and advisors, one of them who I think is actually on this call, I put Post-it notes all over my home that said, my business is good enough and I'm good enough for investors. And I actually keep it handy even now to remind me of the tool of an affirmation. And it sounds trite, sounds silly. I was skeptical, but just within a couple days, I began to become comfortable with the idea and even believe in it. And you got to believe in something before you're really going to take a full action toward it. The second thing I'll mention is really find mentors, confidants, mastermind groups. A mastermind group is a group of individuals, usually entrepreneurs, that are in non-competing businesses that can share what they're learning in their entrepreneurial endeavors and learn from each other. So you can gain so much from this. So I'll give you one example. When I was building Vava Vroom, I met with Bob Carmody. He's the owner of Diana's Bananas in Chicago. It's a super yummy treat, chocolate covered bananas, frozen bananas. I know you can get them at Jewel, probably elsewhere, but he told me about the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And my biggest takeaway from that book was automating and standardizing as much as possible in the operations of the business so that I had more time to focus on sales and vision. So, you can get these little takeaways from people that have been there before you. Another one is a former customer of mine, Bob Hennig. He owns Bob's BMW on the East Coast and owns one of the largest BMW motorcycle dealerships in the country. And I was just a sponge every time I went to visit him and just soaked up everything. And he was really kind in telling me why he was doing things and really showing me the ropes of being an entrepreneur. So we talked about affirmations, talking to other entrepreneurs. The third one is really more of a psychology issue. Do your shadow work. And shadow work is the idea of the shadow self, this idea of the shadow self, which was first conceived by Carl Jung, who was a 20th century psychologist from Switzerland. And in his field, the word shadow refers to hidden parts of our being. And this might be parts of ourselves that we try to repress because they make us feel sad, weak, wounded. And this is the part that we don't show on Facebook or society. And Carl Jung believed in the integration of the shadow side so that all of our full self can be acknowledged and we can live in a balanced way. And the work I do, I consider healing work for the shadow in many respects, because we can live more fully and be more successful when we heal those parts of us that we've actually rejected. And if we can integrate that and truly love our full self, there's just so much more. And Carrie mentioned she just joined Alignable, and she's already got 2 meetings with women in her field, which is amazing. So thank you, Carrie, for that idea. Alignable is a business to business type social networking site that actually can be really, really helpful in that respect. They have different groups of different interests that you can join. So, I encourage you to think big. No one else is going to do that for you. One thing that I recommend, another thing is visualization. Envision yourself at your goal. Keep your eye on the vision without getting down about where you are now. You can go into a visualization of where you want to be quickly for 10 seconds. And just hold that, because maybe our belief system can't hold it for longer than that. But it really works. So the most famous story on the effects of visualization talks about a soldier who was held captive during the Vietnam War. And while he was in captivity, he maintained his sanity and passed the time by mentally playing 18 holes of golf a day. He walked a familiar course every day in his mind, feeling the sun on his back, the wind moving through the course. Each day he played a long, perfect game of golf. And then when he was eventually released and went home, he went to that golf course. And he played 18 holes and puts down the best score of his life, not even having touched a club in years. And it's, you might say, well, that sounds a little far-fetched, but these are things that some of our great athletes have used, like the boxer Muhammad Ali, self-proclaimed the greatest, but he really was great. Olympic medalist and gymnast Mary Lou Retton, they use this as a means of fueling their success. So confidence in yourself is key. We'll move on to the next one. Patience. Exercise patience and give yourself space for you and your business to grow, expand, and pivot if necessarily. And I encourage you to do this both financially and mentally, and have a realistic plan of what you can accomplish in your first year especially. Evaluate your resources and your time and plan from there. It takes a while to build a business. Unless you are securing investors, unless you have a big chunk of change to go out there and hit the market hard, you might want to start slowly, get to know what works first before putting a lot of money into it, and then be ready to go. Oops. Okay. Did you hear my doorbell? Someone's at my door, but we'll let that go. It's probably just a package. Okay. So the next one is, I want you to know that we do live in an abundant universe. Again, the news and other things, might tell us otherwise, but this lack mentality that so many people have really keeps us down and focused on what could go wrong and what we do not have. But living from a place of abundance continually shows us what we do have and attracts more. So if you don't believe me, try it. So this is what I recommend that you do every night. And usually to set a pattern or a habit, 21 to 30 days would be your goal. And I just finished a 30-day sugar detox program, and I still have not had a bit of processed sugar in the form of like cookies, candy, that kind of stuff. Because I had an accountability partner, I got through it in 30 days, and I just mentally have let some of that go. So the practice that I'm recommending is, every night, write down 5 things that you're grateful for. Every day, catch yourself every time you start to complain. Do something about your complaint or move on. And don't get caught up in the story of not enough. It's only true if you believe it. Any thoughts or questions on that? Okay, so the next one is, just allowing for right timing, and, have the ability to know when to go with the flow and when to push through what you have to get done. So a push through would be like, I had a presentation today at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, and that presentation has to be done by then, right? And I maybe have to push through. Now, last week I started working on it and I had a creative block. I knew I had a lot to share, but I wasn't sure which way to take it. So one of the best things you can do is to just get away from it for a little while. I went and took a walk. I have a wonderful path behind where I live, where I can walk in the trees in nature. That's one way for me to get out of my head and let the background of our brain work on the problems for us and allow the universe to bring us some of the answers. Does anyone have anything else that they like to do to kind of shake things up and get the creative juices flowing?
I tend to just journal, in terms of I've learned that with journaling, I need to let go of the idea of an ideal journal and just write down my thoughts as they go, no matter how ridiculous they are. So that's definitely helped me push through creative blocks before.
Journaling, that is a great one. I do a ton of journaling, and if you can just free flow and let it go, there's bound to be some good ideas there. Thank you for that example. And in that line, there's also meditation and contemplation, or working with your hands so you get out of your head, coloring, painting.
You have a couple things in the chat too.
Oh, let's take a look. Pause when agitated and pray, whatever that looks like. Thank you, Carrie. Kay says, listen to music, yoga, meditating. Absolutely. That can get you out of a head. Taking a walk, wonderful examples. Along the lines of moving, like yoga and music and taking a walk. One of my go-to ones is dancing. I'll put on some dance music. I'll just get moving a little bit. I'll get into the music and it just puts me back in the flow. So some great ideas from everybody. And, I encourage you to write some of those down and take them with you into the days ahead. So just keep in mind that you don't have to fight to pull the creativity. Allowing it to flow, can really be an exciting way to approach your life. I mean, you might hear of people having a great idea in the shower. It's because they've gotten their mind out of the thinking, and allow the ideas to find their way to you. Okay, I want to leave time for questions. So I'm going to go through this a little quicker. Intention setting. Be clear on what you want and where you want to go. When I wanted to move out of my West Loop neighborhood, I set an intention that I wanted to move, change my career, take the summer off, and sell my condo by word of mouth. And then I let go of it and just kept looking for opportunities, but also just trusting. And it all fell into place so beautifully. If we have time later, I'll tell you that story, but it was just everything was falling. The dominoes were falling right into place, right where I needed them to go. And finally, I encourage you to take risks, no risk, no reward, I read this book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. It was a life-changing book for me. And it helped me to see how fear was holding me back and taught me that on the other side of fear is this wonder and excitement. So this is a quote by Robert Bennett. He was an American attorney, CPA, political executive. This was in his book, The Light in the Heart. And it says, believe in yourself. You are braver than you think, more talented than you know, and capable of more than you imagine. You may have heard of Tony Robbins. He's a wildly successful entrepreneur, and he has those events where he has people walk hot coals. It's like a mind over matter thing. And one of his central philosophies is that our mindsets create our realities. So what we believe influences what we are able to achieve. And as entrepreneurs, when we embrace the strategies for turning, say, business failures into success, we transform our mindset from one of defeat into empowerment. And I remember early on in my career, I was contemplating a career change from being a commercial lender to teaching entry-level credit analysts how to be commercial lenders. And I asked my dad if he thought I could do it. And he paused and he said, well, of course you can. I don't know why you think you couldn't. What haven't you been able to do? And my dad was my biggest cheerleader, and he's no longer on this earth with us, but I reach for those words whenever I doubt myself. And I invite you to find your own cheerleaders or be one for yourself, avoiding the negative talk. You can work with someone like me to overcome these. You can find therapists and counselors through your employee assistance programs, or you can read books. But I just encourage you, if you read the books or go see the counselors, take their advice and try it, because just reading a book is not enough. So I've incorporated all of these ideas, not only the actionable, practical business guidance and support, but this mindset counseling into my practice, because I know how it's transformed my life. And my vision is for one day that all human beings will know their power and truly live the song of their soul. And to get a little bit deeper, the mission is to provide tools to growth seekers and business owners to truly love and live this life. And, through all that I offer, I help my clients uncover and overcome limiting beliefs and remembering and experiencing their deepest desires. So, I'll leave you with this question. What might your life look like if you were truly living the song of your soul? This is how you can reach me, either here at Gies or through my business. My website is up here. I just noticed there's a glitch in my email sign up on my Live Life website, but that'll be fixed tomorrow. But this is how you reach me. And I want to thank everyone for your attention and check in for any questions or comments.